Mm, so my mother, like I want to start how it was in our family. So my mother gave birth to four daughters in hope of a son. Because this is how our Nepali society is. You know, they need a son to carry on their family legacy and all those things. So um, in that process, we were always told that girls should behave a certain way and should do certain things, or they can do certain things, and they should not do certain things. They cannot do certain things. So this was all fed in to all of us, you know, when we were growing. And in that was in 2003 when I was introduced to mountaineering by my aunt, who was uh, at that time working with Nepal Mountaineering Association. And she introduced me to one of the trekking training given by Nepal Mountaineering Association. And my first exposure was to Annapurna Base Camp, you know, a trek to Annapurna Base Camp. By then, I had never done any trekking. The only heavy weight I had carried was my school bags in the school, you know, and I was not used to carrying bags. I mean, like big bags. I was not used to walking up hills and down hills for weeks and days and months. Not used to sleeping in the tents. Not used to toilets, you know, in the nature, you know. So these were all new things for me. But at the same time, I was so petite and tiny, and a lot of people made fun of me. And I also used to take it as a joke because a lot of people said, "Oh, you're so tiny. You don't need to climb the mountain. We can pack you in our rucksack, and you can be carried to the top of the mountain, or we can carry you in our doko. You even fit in our pockets, you know." And the boys, when I was doing rock climbing, my other co-climbers or co-trainees used to make fun of me and say, like, Susmita, what are you doing over here in the mountain? You should be in the city. You should paint your nails, make yourself pretty for the boys. That's your job. You're not supposed to be here on the mountain. And these were some few things I used to take it very lightly, and I used to laugh along with them. But the thing was, like, it just kept on going, you know, like no matter like how many times I had climbed the mountains or even Everest a couple of times. So it started like that. And there was one thing, like people were not accepting because I was from a Honorary community. I was not from a Sherpa community. And I was tiny, and I was from a city. I was like more educated than most of the climbers in the Nepali climbing community, and I was doing things differently. I was thinking differently, so it was a little difficult for me. And at the same time, because I came from the city, I was born and raised in Kathmandu, so I was not used to the harsh nature, you know, harsh these exposure to the mountain, like wind, sun, or extreme weather conditions. At the same time, the attitude of people. So it was difficult for me from both the sides. And as I started, like in 2003, when I climbed my first mountain, I was so thin, you know, thin, and I was so new, and I didn't have my gear. I didn't have proper gear. I used to borrow the things from here and there. I used to rent the mountaineering gear. And on my first climb, I was wearing 6-7 layers of thin jackets over me. And I had boots borrowed from a Sherpa guy, and the boots were like 3-4 sizes bigger than my feet, you know. So when I was climbing a vertical ice wall on the island peak, I had literally my foot was coming out of the boot. So I had to like put the feet inside the boot, and then like pick my boot outside these snow steps, and then take another step. And on the top it was super windy, and I had to be fixed on 4 different ropes so that I don't get blown away. So that was my first mountain, yeah, first summit. And it was always difficult for me because mountaineering is a very expensive hobby, you know. And I was not climbing as a paid climber. So either I was spending money that I was earning, or I was getting sponsored sometimes. And from the first mountain to the second mountain, I faced a big failure because we had a bad weather. And then came Everest, and when I was going for the Everest for the first time in 2005, I was all over the news, you know, like, oh, okay, she's gonna be the first Nepali girl to climb the Everest, and it was so much like hyped, and I couldn't take it because I was really new and fresh, and everything was so new, and I was really overwhelmed with the reaction of people. But I failed. I failed on the mountain. I was almost there on the top, like almost 48 meters below the summit. I was stopped by my guide, and I was told that I cannot go further because I don't come from the community and I shouldn't be climbing. And that was a heartbreaking moment for me because as a young person who has worked really hard and who has so much of expectations from the people, because media was expecting, the sponsors were expecting, the family, the friends, the whole community was expecting, you know. So it was really difficult for me to just turn back, and not because I couldn't climb, just because I shouldn't be climbing, you know, because somebody stopped me physically. And it was really difficult. For almost half an hour, 40 minutes, I cried. एकदम धेरै रोएँ हैन त्यहाँ. I plead my guide, like, okay, please let me go. I even tried to bribe this guy. I said, okay, I'll pay you more money when I get down. And it just, nothing worked. And I was just made to turn around. And when I was coming down, it was so painful. I just wanted to die. Because I didn't want to come back to Kathmandu and face, you know, like with a failure and face everybody and tell people like, oh, I disappointed you. So it was a very difficult descent for me, and I was like climbing down with a lot of pain, a lot of tears, and I don't know how I was climbing down. I was just sliding down, and I said, okay, if I die, doesn't matter. And then at the same time, there was a second thought that, okay, my mother is waiting for me, you know, back home. I should get down safely. So these two things were like coming in my mind, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I arrived in Kathmandu, and it was like more disappointing for me because it was not about like being Sherpa or not Sherpa. It was about two Nepali women trying to be the first one from the community to climb the Everest that time. And the competition actually killed my expedition, you know, and I almost killed me as well. So it was more heartbreaking, and the failure, like, you know, the post the failure life wasn't easy for me, because as a young person, when you try to achieve such a big goal and then you fail because of somebody else, and then you just get depressed, you know. But then there was a point when I said, okay, I have to do this again. And in 2007, with two co-leaders, you know, my two Sherpa instructors, we decided to do a bigger women expedition, and we organized an expedition of 10 Nepali women. It was earlier like 13 women, then 3 left, and so there were like 10 Nepali women coming from different ethnic backgrounds. And preparing for this expedition was also like equally challenging for me, because it was a big expedition, you know. More climbing members means more money needed, and for each person at that time we needed $20,000, you know. So basically we had to raise almost about like $200,000 for the expedition, and miraculously in a year period we did raise that money, and we all were ready to go to the mountain. But the thing was, like, out of 10, 8 were novice climbers. They had never climbed any mountain. So we got them trained with Mountaineering Association, like basic mountaineering course, and we did a year, like 3-4 months of closed camps and intensive training, team building, and all these things. But when we were on the mountain, because not all of us were very experienced. It was, again, difficult technically, because on the mountain, when you are in a team, the strongest one is only as strong as the weakest one. So when you say, like, from base camp to Camp 1, which takes around 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours maximum. For us, for 10 of us, it took 10 hours. So imagine on the mountain, when you are too slow and the weather starts getting bad, then you can get killed, like all of you can get killed. So it was difficult. And at that time also, when we were raising money, people were looking at us and then saying, like, oh, you 10 tiny women, crazy women going to the top of the world, you will die there. You will, you will not be able to raise money. You will not be able to succeed. Even our Sherpas said, like, oh, it's good that you girls are tiny. It will be easy for us to carry you down if you die up here. So that was kind of, attitude from the people. But yeah, to prove them all wrong, in May 2008, all 10 of us made to the top of Everest, became the most successful and largest women expeditions on Everest. So at that point only, I realized that, like, okay, if I hadn't failed in 2005, I wouldn't have done this big expedition in 2008, and I wouldn't have made the dream of these other, like, 9 women also come true, along with myself. And this success and failure, and then again the success, and then again failure, like after that, like, there was the dynamics of the team, it just kept changing, like from the starting to the expedition to the post-expedition, the success and everything. So I had to leave my team, and then my 7 summits journey started. And as I started the 7 summits, it was again difficult because though I had climbed Everest 3 times by then, in 2011 was my 3rd Everest expedition. It was not easy because at the same time my former team was doing the 7 summits. So there was a competition between the 2 team, or like I was alone in my team, but there were like other 7 women doing the 7 summits. So again, there was a challenge raising money and for the publicity. So I said, okay, this time I do it on my own. So I was basically I spent my own money to do the 7 summits. Some of my mountains were sponsored, like I was sponsored by Mr. Seskale from Australia to do Aconcagua in South America, and then but like or Everest from my Yeti holidays, but the rest of the expedition I did on my own. And by the time I was doing my last expedition, which was Vincent Massif in Antarctica, I just ran out of money. I didn't have my own money. I couldn't raise money. So the expedition Vincent Massif cost $40,000 US. And I didn't have money, and I was like, okay, I was in USA preparing for the expedition at that time, and I told my family in Kathmandu, okay, I'm gonna come back home because I cannot raise money, and I don't know what to do. I just want to just give up and come back home. And then at that point, you won't believe, my parents have a very small house in Kathmandu. They don't have any other property, just a small house, good enough for a family. And they said, like, we will take a loan from bank or sell this house to make you, make you go to Antarctica and get your dream done, get your goal done. And that was a point when I was like so, I felt helpless. I was really grateful to my parents, but this wasn't something I wanted to do, I wanted to do it on my own. And I didn't want them to like sell the only house they had. So it was a difficult moment, and I was like, okay, no, I don't want this. And then my brother, he just took a big loan from a bank in Germany. He was living in Germany, and then just my siblings, they all worked together to get some fund, and I did the 7 summits. And people can see the success, but they